Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today we are exploring the practice of visioning and visualization. Visualization is a powerful and effective technique that helps us imagine what's possible and what our path toward it could look like with the clarity and intention. Visioning isn't just about dreaming. It's about creating a vivid picture of the future and using that image as a guide for action. By visualizing our journey towards achieving our goals, we are rehearsing success. This gives us motivation, familiarity, and confidence. Today, our panelists will share with us some insights on how visualization helps their clients and some practical ways to turn visions into reality. So before we begin our discussion, let me first introduce our panelists, starting with our change and transition strategist, Joan Russell. Joan is a dynamic speaker and a certified ICF coach and a former corporate senior executive specializing in leadership, change management, and transformation, drawing from her experiences in corporate leadership and coaching. Joan empowers individuals and organizations to navigate life and work transitions with clarity, resilience, and purpose. She blends practical strategies with deep insight to guide others through moments of uncertainty into aligned, confident action. Welcome, Joan, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having
Next,
me, Charlotte.
yes, you're welcome. Next, I'd like to introduce you to our health and wellness coach, Rachel Lawrence. Rachel specializes in helping women in their 40s and 50s reclaim their health and confidence. As a board certified health coach who has been through a health journey herself, she brings a unique blend of personal experience and professional expertise to her work. She understands the challenges women face, whether it's emotional eating, struggling with self-sabotage, or finding motivation, because she has lived through it herself. Most recently, Rachel has been focusing on helping women navigate perimenopause and menopause. Rachel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me, Charlotte.
Of course. Our third panelist today is Jamie Konzelman. Jamie is a former Chief Revenue Officer, nationally ranked triathlete, and award-winning author and speaker who has led billion-dollar sales teams and closed nine-figure deals. What makes her story especially powerful is the path she took to get here. Jamie began her career in strip clubs and evolved into a high-achieving corporate executive and now a coach who helps women step out of hiding, embrace their truth, and lead with power and authenticity. Jamie, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you so much for that intro, Charlotte. Excited to be here with everyone.
Of course. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll do some Q&A, some discussion where I'll ask some questions and we'll have some discussion with the coaches and just really dive deeper into visualization. And for attendees here, please please feel free to put your questions in the chat or hold them until the Q&A portion at the end of this discussion, where you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions live. And also please note that this panel discussion is being recorded and the replay will be uploaded into this event posting in the community in Inspire, Empower, Achieve. So if you'd like to revisit this conversation, you'll have that access. Okay, so I wanted to start this conversation by asking the question, what's the difference between visualization and goal setting? Rachel, do you want to start? If I can pick on you?
Sure. So in its most simplistic terms, goal setting is really something you want to work towards, whereas visualization is actually seeing it and being able to imagine yourself living it, and through that, working towards that goal.
Awesome. Where do you, as a health and wellness coach, where do you see visualization working for your niche?
In terms of, in health and wellness, people will come to you with all kinds of different goals. I'll use weight loss as a very common one, but ultimately they'll come to you with a weight loss goal. And really, visualization helps them break that goal down because weight loss is a broad topic. There's lots of different ways to achieve it. But through visualization, you're able to sort of take that goal and break it down into its smallest form and figure out what those actionable steps are to get to that ultimate goal. And whether that's, visualization through like a journaling or like a brainstorming type of exercise, something along that path. It just helps to sort of break that down and make it seem like that end goal is attainable.
Yeah, it seems like it would make it less overwhelming
Right.
and more clear, right? Like
Yeah.
you said, weight loss, it's a very broad topic. Okay, well, what exactly do you mean by weight loss? Are
Where
you
do I begin? Yeah.
targeting
Exactly.
certain parts of your body? Are you looking at the number on the scale? Yeah, interesting. Jamie, how about you? Where do you see visualization and in your niche?
Well, so if we come back to the root of the first question I heard you ask, which is what's the distinction or how do I view a distinction between visualization and goal setting? To me,
Yes.
they're two different tools or methods that you can have in your toolbox. So when I think of a vision, like when I speak to leaders, whether I'm coaching somebody who's a senior leader or somebody who's coming up in their career, one of the first questions I like to ask them is, what is the vision for your life? And when I think of that, there's lots of different exercises you can do, but one of my favorites when people are like, well, I'm not really sure, and you have a brainstorming around it, is to ask the person to put themselves in that vision, to close their eyes, to think about the sensations, what they think, what they feel, what they're experiencing, and then talk about it in first person. So to me, having a vision for your life or your career is a state that's different from where you are today. And where it's powerful is when it's something that's so big that it inspires you, but you actually have to grow into being able to bring that to life. Whereas goal setting, I look at as more tangible or tactile within that vision. If you have a vision for your life, you don't actually have to know how that vision is going to come into reality because the vision becomes your North Star. Whereas goal setting is more a tactical tool that you can use to bridge the gap between that vision and where you are today. That says, okay, if my dream and my vision is to, run an animal sanctuary, living someplace where I have a lifestyle job, what are the things that I need to have in place to get there? Well, I'm going to have to look at my finances. Okay, where are my finances today? I'm going to have to look at the different income streams that I have, and any one of those tenants that underpins that vision can become an area where you do goal setting, right? And then there's lots of different methodologies to goal setting. Make your goal specific, make it time bound, right? Like we've probably all heard all of the different tools and templates that are out there. But to me, it boils down to different tools in your toolbox that you can either use with a coach or you can use for yourself that helps you figure out where do I want to go? And then what are the ways that I can bring that vision to life through action?
That makes total sense. And as you're talking about the North Star and some of the elements that you were talking about, gosh, it just makes me think of Joan, and the name of your company is Intuitive North. I'm seeing some parallel there.
Quite interesting. Yeah. I think there was more of a part to the question that you asked Jamie, though. And Jamie, dead on, by the way.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but why does visualization work? What is it in our brains that helps that? Jamie?
You can look at it through a lot of different lenses. Like more and more, there's neuroscience around the power of vision and visualization. And I say those two words as two distinctions, right? Because the way I think about it is the vision is the future state. Where do
Yeah.
I want to get to? And visioning, the action, is practicing bringing that vision to life in different ways. Why do I believe it works? Because the neuroscience shows that our brains actually can't distinguish between a sensation when we're thinking about it for the future versus when we're actually living it in it, which means it's a really powerful tool to visualize the experience that you want to have. Because to me, it takes that vision and helps you bring it to life on a sympathetic nervous system level, right? Where you're experiencing it. One of the phrases I will use with leaders who are trying to strengthen their leadership skills or women who are trying to strengthen their voice is that it's a full body experience. So often in our world, I think we have a tendency to get outside of ourselves, right? How often, are we guilty of, oh, what's that problem I want to solve? Let me go look at ChatGPT, as
Yeah.
opposed to tuning into our own intuition and connecting with sort of our head, heart, and gut brains to figure out like what feels right for me in that moment. And to me, it's that connection internally of feeling and experience that helps you ground into your own personal power and actually bring it to life in a way that's right for you. You know, because
Yeah.
what works for me as a leader might not work for you in the same way. We both may have a similar vision, but how we're going to bring that to life is completely unique to ourselves. And I think that's the power with having both a vision of where you want to get to and then visualizing from a full body or existential experiential way how you bring that to life. Like it's I think about it, you know, being a triathlete, like that vision of being an Ironman is really, really powerful. And yet when I'm doing the workouts for my first ones every day, those workouts are hard. Like if you're on a 9% grade on a bike and the weather's not great, like that's hard. But that vision of being an Ironman enables you to sort of dig deep and have that connection to something greater than yourself. So when you're doing that physical training, that mental training, you're actually getting yourself ready to do something that's so much bigger than you ever thought that you can do, that there's growth that's required in that. And part of that growth is maybe at a physical or muscle level. You've got to break down your muscles and build them. But part of that is at a mental level. If it's something that is so much bigger than you thought, there's a place in sports where your mind, I think, becomes just as much powerful, if not more powerful than your body in bringing things to life. And if you haven't practiced that sort of neuroelasticity in your brain or that aperture within your body for pushing past that hard and learning how to dig deep, well, when things get hard, you'll fall apart. Right.
Yeah.
But if you've got that vision and you're practicing bringing it to life, I think you're sort of setting yourself up to be able to grow into what it's going to take to actually realize your vision.
Yes, it's interesting, and I love that you brought in this kind of triathlete sport aspect to it, because when I was doing some research on visualization several years ago, I noticed that there was a commonality when it comes to high achieving people like Michael Phelps. He would visualize, he was been quoted as visualizing his competitions from from start to finish, and he'll even visualize his goggles breaking in the middle of it. What would he do? He's already kind of rehearsed those issues popping up. And so if and when something does pop up, he's not going to be jarred by it. He's not going to be stunned. He's not going to have that amygdala hijack situation. So that's really interesting. When it comes to like visualization techniques, we've touched on it a little bit. But Joan, what are some of your favorite visualization techniques that you like to offer or to do yourself?
There are so many. As Jamie kind of alluded to, when you are visualizing an event or something that you are going to be doing, whether it's competitive, like being a triathlete, or I'm working through this right now with a large speaking engagement that I have coming up. Visualizing not just the outcome, but all the steps along the way.
Yeah.
Because, what are you wearing? How are you feeling? What does the audience look like? What are you saying? How do you want them to feel as well? And thinking about all the different pieces of it rather than just, the overall outcome helps you to be more prepared throughout the whole thing. It also helps you to desensitize, especially if it's something that is a big growth piece for you, for example, because otherwise, if you aren't visualizing every step of the way, what shoes am I wearing? What do I do if a heel breaks? What do I do if the lapel mic doesn't work? All of these things, it makes it so that not only are you ready for any eventual circumstance, but also helps you set up for being the identity of the person who does this. And becoming that person can only be done as you are visualizing it and working into it and stepping into that new identity. Identity shift is so important, and so many times we aren't preparing ourselves for it. So when we do have a shift like that, sometimes people can break down because their brains aren't ready for it. Going back to neuroscience and amygdala and all of that stuff with fight, flight, freeze, or fawn syndrome. And in a lot of cases, people will freeze, people will flee. I mean, there's so many possibilities. So working through all of the pieces of what you're trying to accomplish along the way to being that new person, being the person who does that thing, is super, super helpful. Another technique that I use, I do vision board workshops for business accelerators and the Better Business Bureau for entrepreneurs, and helping them envision their business in 1 year or 5 years or 10 years, and creating that vision boards that way they can see the pieces of it every day and get into action towards what they wish to accomplish helps as well. So that way you have that visual piece every day that you're looking at, and it helps to normalize it. Once again, it's stepping into that new identity.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. And I love how you mentioned like sensitizing yourself. I feel like far too often we just kind of go through life and we have this goal and one, well, what if I won the lottery? What would I do, kind of thing. But then like if it really truly happened, I know I'd pee my pants and be like, what do I do now? And who do I talk to? How do I? But if I envision, okay, I need to get a financial advisor, I need to, get my affairs in order in terms of like my financial stability and how all that is panning out. Instead of just being reactive, I can be proactive in designing that future and becoming that person. Soon, super cool. When it comes to visualization, one thing I was thinking about the other day was there are some pitfalls to visualization. My husband reminds me of this, where he would just kind of envision that end goal, and that end goal is so ginormous. And to everybody's point here, unless you take all the little steps along the way and just envision what that's going to be like, it just feels so unattainable. And yet, it's like if with my husband, it seemed like he was just always at some point down in his spirit because it felt so unattainable. Um, uh, Other things that come to mind would be, one thing I realize is we're always visualizing constantly, whether we're visualizing something positive towards a certain goal, or if I'm visualizing the worst case scenario in kind of on the other side of the fence in a negative standpoint. So if we're always doing that anyway, why not replace it with something more optimistic? Any thought, like, have you come across some situations or clients that seem to just get stuck into the negative side of visualization and not even realize it?
There's definitely those clients who sort of get into that downward spiral, as I'll call it, of just what if this and what if that, and sort of can't see the forest for the trees kind of, mentality. But you turn it back on them and say, and what if this, like the flip side of it? So, what if you aren't going to achieve XYZ, but what if you do? And that goes back to sort of that kind of like that mental picture that you're painting for yourself of, okay, yeah, what if I do, like, this is what it'll look like, and just try to steer them back to, there's two sides to the coin. It's not just the negative and the self-sabotage or wherever their headspace is going. There is the flip side to it as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'd like to add one more thing is in the example with your husband, where he's got this big vision to get from here to here. Sometimes people get stuck on the how.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, and I'm just going to say it, the how doesn't really matter. You don't have to know how, you just have to know the next step. And when you take even that next baby step towards that direction in your big vision, then things will unfold from there. But without taking that baby step and needing to know the how and getting, really, really stuck on the how, sometimes people don't accomplish a thing.
Yeah, that actually led to, I love that you said that. That leads to exactly the next question I was going to ask, which is if every step, if you envision every step, or a client was to envision every step, and along the way is, well, step 3 didn't happen the way I expected it. How do I make the rest of it work out? How do you kick them out of that? Yes, it's true. Maybe the how doesn't doesn't necessarily need to matter as long as you're still working towards that goal. How do you kick them out of that mindset?
Mm. Really good question. One of the things that comes to mind for me when you share that, because it's a natural pitfall, right? We're human beings and we really like to have things all figured out. And I'm one of the worst culprits of that in my own life. I mean, how many times have I said, I trust the universe, but then I get so attached to things coming to fruition in the way I think I can make them happen that it's like I'm trying to force fit it. And so in those situations where I see myself sometimes in clients who are struggling with that, I will share with them a mantra that has really helped ground me, and that's steady vision, flexible means. And what I mean by that is it's that mantra helps me detach from the outcome of how things come to life. Like my job as the visionary for my life is to hold that vision, to stay open to possibility, and to be flexible in how I'm able to receive and step into that vision. But that takes practice. That's not necessarily natural, especially if we're so attached to the outcome that we can kind of get caught up with trying to force it. And so when I remind myself of that or share that with clients, it can become a tool that says, okay, how do I come back to that vision, right? And continue practicing letting go that attachment to outcome, right? Like people will say, okay, make the wish and be unattached to how it comes to fruition. And I find as, human beings who tend to be doing machines, that's often easier said than done. And so another practice beyond sharing the mantra that took me a while to learn, like a lot of, right, we all come from different bodies of experience, but in my career growth of going from being a former adult entertainer to, an enterprise sales executive in my early 30s to, 15 years later, a chief revenue officer, so much of that journey was me developing a skill set across leadership and business acumen and sales that in the market allowed me to become a deal maker doing transactions at a very, very high dollar value. So in order to lead an enterprise pursuit that's, let's say, total contract value of $500 million, and maybe takes 18 months and has 30 stakeholders at the customer and 30 stakeholders internally, you have to have an incredibly strong vision for how that partnership can work, but be incredibly flexible in the means of how are you going to get there? Because at the end of the day, my job is voice of the customer and holding true to that vision. But there's an entire team of technology experts who have to solution it. There's an entire team of stakeholders that have to approve it at every stage. And the hardest skill for me to learn that made the biggest impact in my ability to go from, let's say, $1 million deal to $100 million deal was learning to take that vision and being so crystal clear on it, but then practicing enrolling other people in that vision. And so I think that same skill set applies no matter what vision you're trying to be to life. So often we think we have to have the vision and the means to bring it to life. Being a deal maker taught me that I can have the vision, but the real power is sharing that vision with others in a way that touch, moves, and inspires them to join my cause and support me in bringing that to life. That's a leadership skill, but it also translates into life. Like if your dream and your vision is not so big that you have to grow into it, it might not actually be big enough. But you've got to develop that comfort level with understanding you're not going to have all the skills to bring it to life. And the way that I find you can get access to people with those skills is by actually sharing that vision with others and inspiring them to support your cause.
Wow. Wow. You've inspired me just now.
Oh, yay.
Steady vision, flexible means. I love that. I'm gonna write that down and put it up on my wall.
Already wrote it down. That's a good one, Jamie.
Love
Thanks.
it.
It helps me. I have to go back there, right? When I find myself getting off track, when I come back to that, it grounds me in. I don't have to have all the answers, but I
Yeah.
have to get comfortable staying true to that vision and showing up and sharing it, even when it's really hard. Because I think that's where a lot of people falter, is we have the vision. Maybe if you're brave, you put it on social media once or twice, and then we go, but nothing's happening. I'm not getting coaching clients fast enough, or I want to start my own business, and I'm not. And you're like, but I've, and then that person comes to you for coaching, and you're like, well, what did you do? And they're like, well, I've done everything. I have a vision board, and I've written a mission statement, and I posted on social media 5 times. Right? Arms crossed. Why isn't things happening fast enough? Right? But that's a human pitfall that we all have. But it's the reality is, some of these visions, I just did my last newsletter. I do a newsletter on LinkedIn every other week called The Messy Middle, right? Trying to create a safe space for people who are growing through something or transitioning to something else. And I
Mhm.
shared that I had a vision for a lake house by a very certain builder. And I wanted to live at that lake house. 1999 was my first business trip to Las Vegas. And there's this lake called Lake Las Vegas. You wouldn't think there's a man-made lake out there, an Italian village, bookended by two hotels, and it's gorgeous. There's nature preserve. It's in 1999. I said, I'm going to live here.
Wow.
I I moved into a house there May of this year. So 26 years later.
Oh my. Oh my.
Right. So that is for me, the culmination of steady vision, flexible means. There were so many times I was going to do it and it didn't happen. And the universe had other plans and I lost a job or a
Mm.
partner didn't want to live out there and all of these things. But to me, that's the beauty, is that some dreams, some visions, may take decades to come to fruition. And I even believe some of our visions may not come to fruition in this lifetime, but if they are destined for us, that, we'll get another shot at it. And so it's that kind of future thinking and practice of letting go that, at least for me, makes the pursuit of things much more, like, brings ease to the pursuit as opposed to stress and force.
So how did you learn that skill and how do we help our viewers learn that skill?
I'm still learning it. It's practice. It's like I like the word practice. In a yogi will, I'm not, a yoga master will know it may take a lifetime or many lifetimes to master yoga. But in yoga, they use the term practice. Like, what are you doing in your practice? And to me, that was a word that I keyed on in early. Like, what if I could bring a practice mentality to the skills I want to learn, the visions I want to bring to life? And within that word practice, for me, is an incredible amount of freedom. It means I
Mm.
show up and I try. Even
Yeah.
when it's hard, I show up and I try. And that has not been an easy journey for me. Like, I'm somebody who likes to kind of go all in, but when things aren't going my way, it's easier to hide or get busy or get distracted. So for me, it's not one specific tool, right? But coming back to the mantras, coming back to those small tools about showing up, writing in journals when things don't get well or go the way I want to, like really dissecting it, but processing things emotionally. I think I know one of my pitfalls that I continue to try to grow through is compartmentalization. Oh, I
Mm.
don't care about that. That doesn't matter. As opposed to, actually, that really hurt. And I'm going to cry today because I really, really wanted that. And I was really attached to it happening. And I'm going to give myself permission to feel all those emotions. And what I found as I've taken on the practice of really not swallowing emotions or compartmentalizing them, actually experiencing them, I'm actually moving through those experiences much faster. And you kind of come out reconnected to the vision or whatever it is that you wanted to. But all of that is, to me, falls under this umbrella of practice. What are the skills? What are the tools that I am practicing so that I can continue to grow?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When it comes to like when I feel derailed at some point, I'll reach out to my trusted people, trusted
So smart.
individuals, and just kind of pour my heart out. I'm not looking for answers. I'm just looking to get it out and to say
Yeah.
it out loud. Because sometimes when I say something out loud, then I'll go, oh, I didn't realize I was feeling that until I said it out loud. And so I feel like taking those events and taking those situations and getting it outside, like when you read something or when you visually see something, then you can kind of reflect it back and go, oh, that's what it was. That's what's going on. And then I can take that learning and put it into my next step in that visualization process. And now my path is a different path, but it's okay. And I love that you put a quote into it, like a mantra into it. Steady vision, flexible means. It feels warrant. It feels what's the word? Like valid. It feels valid that I do
Mm,
this. I didn't even know I was doing it. So
there
thank
you
you
go.
for
Yeah.
saying it out loud and describing it out loud. Wow, neat. So once a client has decided to pursue a certain goal, Joan, how do you guide them to visualize the path to achieving their goals? They decided on a certain goal and they go, okay, well, I don't know how to get there, but that's what I want, that thing. How do you guide them to visualize that path?
Um, It depends on where they are in the process is a big part of this, because are they at the beginning where they're just starting to normalize this goal, or is this something that they've been going after for some time? It's kind of, I hate to use the whole "it depends," but it really depends on the client. And also, how are they motivated? Are they goal motivated? Are they action motivated? Are they vision motivated? And one thing to also remember is that not everyone has the capacity necessarily to have a mental vision in their head, kind of like how you see something unfolding in their mind, because there's something called aphasia, which means that 2 to 5% of the population can't actually visualize a picture in their head. Like, I can visualize an apple in my head, and it's green and it's fresh and it's crisp. But other people can't necessarily visualize the picture of it in their head. There's other ways that they visualize, whether that's through sensing or touch or through smell or through, other experiences. So that's why I'm hemming and hawing going, it depends on how we want them to visualize their goal. This is really a collaborative effort with the client as to how they're motivated.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Rachel, in the health and wellness space, when you when I think about like a client pursuing their goal, um, do you see any commonalities, or what, if any, commonalities do you see in terms of like successful visualization for your clients?
Yeah, I don't know if it's as much visualization. I know I kind of touched on sort of that journaling, brainstorming, but oftentimes that's where we'll kind of go to with goals. Just to go back to like weight loss as a easy example, you take the idea of weight loss as the goal, and then breaking it down, you've got, changing your eating habits, adopting exercise, getting better sleep, and what are all the pieces that go into that. So taking that ultimate goal, but then breaking down those steps and then breaking those down even further. So, okay, you want to eat well. Now, what do you know about macros? Reading food labels, mapping out the grocery store, like whatever it is, it becomes a bit of a mental picture that you're painting for the client, but those are sort of key things, especially in the health and wellness area, that I find work.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I think back to when I started becoming more aware of paying attention to labels and whatnot. It's one thing to say, "Oh yeah, look at the labels." It's another thing to go, "What am I looking for? What should I be thinking about when I look at labels?" And starting to teach my young children how to look at labels, we keyed in initially on two key things: sodium and sugar. And now, as we've kind of evolved in our label reading journey, we're looking at other things too. So to be able to just practice what those that looks like, in that health journey, that's that totally makes sense. Um, as I kind of want to wrap up our discussion on visualization and save a few minutes for Joan. I think Joan's going to walk us through a visualization exercise. If if that's something that would be valuable to somebody, it's, speaking of practice and what does it look like to do like visualization. I thought it would be really neat to do an exercise here together, so our viewers and selfishly me, I can learn some other techniques for visualizations. Joan, do you want to take it away?
I would, but there's a question in the chat from Lori
Oh.
Cunningham. And I can take it since it's in Joan's example. How do you draw the line between visualization preparedness versus ushering in anxiety over perfection? Lori, I am the queen of anxiety. So I understand that question beautifully, because the overthinking part of it can be detrimental. So when it comes to the visualization, it's not so much wanting to over prepare for it, other than being prepared for what you see in front of you. So keeping it in the positive as opposed to the obsessive. is always best, and trying to keep it loose, because you can only prepare for so much. There's other things that are going to happen. Having done, I can't even tell you how many events in my life, every single time something's going to go wrong. And sometimes you just have to trust that you're going to be able to handle it. And that's a part of the visualization too, is putting into it kind of this undercurrent of, no matter what happens, I'm going to be able to handle it, and I trust myself.
Mm. Well, I love
So
that.
thank you for that question. It's a great one,
Yeah.
because as we also talked about with Charlotte's husband, with the just getting stuck because it's just too much or overwhelming,
Yeah.
and just
Well,
being able to take that tiny step.
what a great answer.
Thanks. Anybody else want to kick in on that one? Okay, nobody's tagging in, so I'll take it from here. All right, so I am just going to do a brief visualization exercise, and as we start moving into this exercise, I want you to think about something that, a goal or something that you're working towards. And it can be anything. It can be health and wellness related. It can be lake house related. It can be something that you've got coming up that you aren't really sure what that's going to look like. And just think of a situation, and I invite you to have a moment and think of a situation that you would like to visualize and work towards. And everyone's thinking about their situation. So I would invite you to put both feet on the ground and get comfortable in your chair, whatever that means, or lying down, wherever you're at, because there's people who are going to be watching this on recording. And taking a deep breath in, holding it at the top, and release. I'm going to take one more deep breath in, holding at the top, and release. Now think about this future situation, whatever it is that you're working towards. And think of it as something amazing that you're doing. It's something that you don't just have to do, but you want to do it. And you have this vision that you want for yourself, or for your family, for your life in general. And as you're thinking about this vision and what you're working towards, I want you to think about where you're at now. And study that vision and think about the end result. How you want that end result to feel. How does it make you feel? Does it make others feel? And what is the first step that you'd like to take towards that goal? How does that first step feel? What does it look like? What action item is it that you have to do? And then go towards that goal all the way there. There's a bit of a gap, sure, but it's nothing that you can't handle. In fact, it's something that'll help you grow. When you get to that goal, what does it look like? Bring color into it. Does it have a taste? I know that's a strange question, but what does it taste like? Does it taste like victory? Does it taste like champagne? Does it taste like another form of celebration? Are people applauding? Are you patting yourself on the back, and how are you going to celebrate this goal? And I'd invite you to take another deep breath. And release. And think of yourself having accomplished that vision, that thing that you wanted to do. And feel like you've done it. And you've accomplished it, and it is yours. And you are that new person who has accomplished this goal. After you've done it, how are you going to feel? Like, think about 1 year after you've done that goal. And the new person that you've become. That new identity. Take one more deep breath in. Hold it. And release. And when you're ready, and you've sat with it, open your eyes.
I
How'd
am
that
so
feel?
glad this was recorded. I'm so gonna keep coming back to this.
I actually have a future self visualization that I'll be dropping in the chat on Inspire, Empower, Achieve that people can
Oh,
use. It's recorded. So
thank you. Wow. I feel wonderful. I feel inspired. I didn't know I could taste my success, but I tasted it. I'm not a champagne drinker, but I tasted champagne.
does it have a flavor?
It was sweet. It was very sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Oh my gosh, I don't know where to go from here. I'm just like enjoying the moment. Um, I do want to wrap us up because I want to respect everybody's time. And wow, that felt really good. I mean, anybody who wants to share anything, please feel free. Don't let me be the other one, the only one taking the stage here.
That was really great, Joan. What a wonderful reminder about how powerful it can be just to have somebody just take a few minutes and ground you into prompts that help you really experience your vision. So that was a gift today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's wrap this up by just opening up for more questions. If anybody has any questions for any of our coaches here, or we can ask each other some of those questions. I'm gonna assume no.
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement that I've kind of kept saying to myself. I say it to myself anyway, but it kind of kept coming up in my mind today as I was listening to everybody talk. And that is about like where where your attention goes, your energy flows. So the more you focus on whatever it is, that's where your energy is going to go towards. And that is ultimately going to get you to that end state, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I love that because if you're focusing on the negative, you get the negative. If
Right.
you're focusing on the positive and the possibilities and possibility and abundance, I mean, there's one other thing that we haven't really mentioned with this visualization, and that's the parts that are unknown. Because there's always going to be unknowns when we're doing this, your visualization could go a completely different direction
Mhm.
than reality. And that's okay, because as human beings, our desires shift and they change and they grow and they merge, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be messy, like what Jamie was talking about with the messy middle, because I don't know how many times you've pivoted in your vision or I've pivoted in my vision, but pivots happen and change happens. And sometimes it leads you into really amazing places that you may not have considered otherwise. I mean, with the flexible needs, for example. So I think that's a really great reminder, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So as I like to do in these panel discussions is to give each of our panelist coaches a few minutes to just talk about how they can be reached, what kind of work they do, and what kind of clients they serve. Jones, is just because you're on the top of my screen, would you like to share with our viewers how they can reach you, and if they want to work with you, and what kind of work you help people with?
Thanks, Charlotte. I am a change coach and transformation strategist. I work with individuals one-on-one and also with live events, and also work with organizations with helping them transmute change into growth. You can reach out to me right now. I actually have a September special going on because it's my birthday month, and it is for a free clarity session, which is pretty awesome. It's a free 60-minute session where we explore your goals and figure out next steps for you, so that way you can move forward. You can reach that through intuitivenorth.com. And also I have the Leap Lounge podcast, helping people take their leaps from where they are today to where they want to be.
Wonderful, thank you. And you can also message Joan directly in Inspire, Empower, Achieve if you so choose, or comment anywhere. Joan's always watching. And we see you in Facebook and Instagram. You're all over. You're awesome.
Always watching. No.
Yeah. In a good way. Ready to answer questions.
Little creepy, Charlotte, but that's okay.
I didn't visualize that, but
Hey.
Rachel, can you please introduce just kind of share with us the kind of clients that you help and how they can reach you?
Yeah, so I primarily work with women. As Charlotte mentioned, I've been focusing a lot with perimenopausal and menopausal women and just helping them through that transition. People come to me with it really being a hot mess express at that time of life. So just sort of helping them navigate that. My website's version 2.0, so 2.0.ca. You can go there and reach out to me through that.
Wonderful, thank you. And Jamie.
That's a great website. I love that. Right. We all are, I don't know. So many times I've been 2.0 of my next self. So I think that really resonated with me. That's awesome. I maintain a full-time corporate job. Announcement coming out this week. So leading large sales organizations. So the best way to stay in touch with me is all the social channels, right? LinkedIn, Instagram. I throw leadership videos up on YouTube. And then I very selectively work with clients who have a really big goal or vision for their life, but are not quite sure how they want to get there. So sometimes that's a senior executive who's like, I want to leave corporate America and leave a legacy, but I don't know who I am without the title, right? It's a lot of women who over the years have checked all the boxes for success, raised a family, gotten the title, but somewhere along the way, they lost touch with their dreams, their passions, right? And they're ready to go deep with someone quickly, and sort of figure out that legacy or roadmap to bring their next 2.0, I'll borrow Rachel's term. I love that to life. I do speaking in organizations, professional associations for women, diversity events, that kind of thing, and sometimes lead workshops and retreats to sort of go deep with women on that transformational journey.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we have been so lucky to have such expertise in this conversation. I always have high hopes for these panel discussions, for some sort of epiphanies for me. And in this discussion, I had many, and I wrote so many notes. You should see all the Post-its that are in front of me here. I really need to get bigger Post-its. Anyway, thank you all for joining us, and for all those who are watching the replay, we're just gonna have the replay here for you to watch over and over again, because there's so many nuggets that I feel like if I watch this over again, I will get more and more of those learnings. So please feel free to rewatch these replays, and we'll let these ladies have their time, the rest of their day back. And thank you so much. I've learned so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.